Oh look, I've loved it. It's obviously been challenging, and let's use the word disappointing, but look, I wouldn't change it for the world. I've learned a lot about MI, I've learned a lot about South Africa, I've learned a lot about the players we have in our squad, and importantly I've learned about myself as a coach. So while it hasn't gone our way, I know that we'll be better off in the long run, but the short-term pain is always a bit harder as well. Well, look, we've got in terms of the bowling side of things, we've got a very sort of top-heavy experienced group of international bowlers. Rashid Khan, Jofra Archer, Rabada, George Linda, Sam Curran, I could go on. And then you've got a whole lot of guys who don't quite have that same experience. And I think a benefit of having those inexperienced guys around the international players, well, again, that long-term benefits will come to fruition, I think, as we go along in the different seasons. Individually, we've seen each of these bowlers do very well, even down to the likes of Dwan Jansen. Have played well when they've given their opportunities, but obviously we didn't put it together enough as a collective, as a group. But there are glimpses of being a very good side. All the conversations with the bowlers are around the particular pitch we're going to be playing on, the specific opposition, and then it's trying to work out a bit of a game plan. And George is one of these guys who has had a taste of international cricket. He's young enough that he's still got time on his side. He desperately wants more. So he's quite malleable in the fact that he wants to learn, he wants to listen, he wants to keep growing his game, and it's awesome to work with bowlers like that. He's got a lot of skill, and not just with the ball. We've seen him hit big sixes and have a couple of good innings. Got an absolute rocket for an arm as well, and safe hands. So an integral member of this MI Cape Town team. I hadn't met Jock before this tournament. I knew he was obviously a very good bowler, but what I've been blown away with is how professional he is off the park, in particular with his preparation in terms of physical, but also the scouting and planning side of things. And I think the success that comes his way is no mistake, and it's not just because he bowls fast. He is a very good bowler, he's got a good brain on him, he knows what to do and when to do it, and you couple that intellect with the skills and you've got a serious weapon. He has wanted to bowl as much as he can and play as much as he can, but obviously coming off the injuries and with a huge winter ahead with the Ashes, that good old high performance word management needed to be at the forefront of everyone's mind. And he's got through the games, he's played really well, he's been awesome for us, and I hope in years to come he will be fit and firing in every game for us. It's been, I think the whole tournament, SA20, has been unbelievable. The organisation, the tournament has run smoothly. For us here at MI Cape Town, it's been unbelievable. The support we had in Cape Town was just great. Full houses everywhere we've played. The public have got in behind it, and I think you've seen some really good cricket as well. The standard has been exceptionally high, and I think it's surprised a few people, especially maybe some overseas players who have come in, and the standard has been so high. A lot of good talent here in South Africa. From us specifically, I just use that word disappointing again. We have a good roster. I think everyone within MI Cape Town knows that, and there'll be some questions afterwards, and rightly so, around why are we not in the semis. But for now, I think it's I'm looking at the bigger picture and thinking it's been a great 5 weeks with the tournament, and we will learn from it, and we will be better for next year. The short answer is no, not yet. We've only just come off the back of the last game, but that will happen for sure. There will be plans put in place for work-ons and areas we have learned from this year that we can put right next year, and that is a big part of, I think, what we need to do going into year 2. And there will be more conversations around some of those younger guys, as opposed to the likes of Rabada and Archer and Curran, who have pretty much played 10 months a year, and they do what they do, and they do it very well. But it's about moulding that into a team unit, and got to make sure that's right for next year. Well, we'll find out, because I think that culture will be tested next year when we come back after a poor season. I think that'll really come to the fore next year. I agree, I think culture's huge. I mean, we had, I think off the top of my head, 4 last over losses, and we need to make sure that those last over losses are last over wins next year. I mean, even if we'd won 2 of those 4, we're in the semi-finals. So we need to make sure that we have learned from it. And if it's about camaraderie and whatever else, fighting and competing for each other, which I'm not saying didn't happen this year, then if that's the little 1%er, then we need to make sure that's right for next year. Well, I'd hope it'd help a little bit. I'll say again, a lot of these top level guys, they would have multiple coaches across their different franchises and also their national teams. And I appreciate that only for a short period of time they have been with MI Cape Town and under me as bowling coach, so they would get a lot of input and assistance from others. But if we can give them just a little gold nugget that can help them perform better, then I think we're doing our job really well. And in particular, as we get closer to the start of 2024 and the next SA20, I think that's when you'll see a lot of those conversations come to the fore around preparation and skills and what they're doing with their game as we get closer to next year. Yeah, I think we've worked really well, which might be a bit contradictory to the results, but I think we're all on the same page. I think we speak a similar language around cricket. It was same sort of generation. I mean, I played both Simon and Hashim. I try to forget about the times I played Hashim because it was pretty much a lot of runs off my bowling. But yeah, like we're all good guys. As I say, we got on really well. There's been no issues, and that's hand on heart stuff. That's the truth. And you know, I just say again, like this is the first SA20. We will learn from it. I think as coaches there will be stuff. Right now it's a bit emotional. But I think we'll go away in a week or 2 or a month, and when we really debrief and get down to the nitty gritty of it without that emotion involved, we'll actually realise that there's some areas that we can improve on, whether that's messaging or, you know, training or logistics or whatever it is that we can put right in for next year. I'd like to take all the credit for that, but I think when you look at our bowling unit, they're very good players individually. But what we have stressed to them a lot is around that every ball counts, and there are 120 balls that we have to bowl, notwithstanding a few extras maybe, but there is 120 balls in a bowling innings and every one of those count. Now, you can look back to those 4, I said before, I think it was 4 last over losses, and you can pick out one ball that went for 4 or 6 and it could make a difference, but you know, that is just the game. I'm sure the opposition could do the same as well, but we've just tried to talk about competing and making sure that every ball something is on it. Even if you've gone for a few boundaries at the start of your over, finish that over, get out of that over. So instead of it going for 18, it might only go for 12 or 14, but those extra 4 or 6 runs can make a huge difference. All of them had something for bowlers. Like, you haven't seen huge totals. I mean, you saw 240 at Centurion the other day. 180 today, unfortunately. But there haven't been huge scores. And I think that's because there's been something in it for the bowlers. Cape Town, it could get a little bit slow, and there was a bit of turn there, so you could bring in your variations with slow balls and cutters. Pal, where it was a used wicket there, quite dry, kept a bit low, so tough to score on. And then here in the high belt, while I don't like the idea of the ball flying off because of the thin air, a little bit of variable bounce. So all of them brought something to the table, and I think that's why as well, like I say, you've seen some, I won't call them low scores, but not exactly sky high scores. A fair bit, especially Durban, where he still resides. I think his home ground. I think Hashim's been great, but one of the biggest, the guy who's given us the biggest information is Robbie Peterson. Robbie's given us a lot of information in his role with the team. It's kind of that overarching role. And given that he coaches in first class cricket, he's seeing these grounds every season, maybe once or twice a season. So he's been outstanding. And then you've got the local domestic players. We go into bowlers meetings and we talk about fields, pitches and the pace of the pitch, the bounce of it, boundary size, and the likes of Bjorn Hendricks and George Linde, Duan, they all give us that input from a local knowledge. So that communication has been open and has been very beneficial.
It's lekker.